People can join live and online, right? Let's do an invocation to the Supreme God, to the Great Divine Father and the Great Divine Mother. Thank you for your priceless blessings, for your divine light, divine love, divine power, divine healing, guidance, mercy, help, and protection. Thank you to our great spiritual teacher, to all the great spiritual teachers, to all the great gods and goddesses, to all the great, great ones. We incredibly humbly thank you for your great blessings. We thank you so much. We thank you so much. Thank you to the great spiritual teacher, Sri Ramakrishna, and to all his great disciples. We very, very humbly thank you for your great blessings. Thank you so much. All right, let's go forward. All right. Let's read from here. Totapuri returned to Dakshineshwar and spent the remaining hours at the night meditating on the Divine Mother. In the morning, he went to the Kali temple with Sri Ramakrishna and prostrated himself before the image of the Mother. He now realized why he had spent 11 months at Dakshineshwar. Bidding farewell to the disciple, he continued on his way. So basically, if you remember right, Totapuri was one of those who had only the regard for the great mother aspect and not the sorry, he had only the regard for the truth of the self and almost no regard for anything else. He thought that praising the statue of the Divine Mother is like settling for a lesser god or something like that. बट रामकृष्ण को देखने के बाद एंड उनकी वो मतलब क्या बोलते हैं स्टडीइंग हाउ ही वर्कड एंड हाउ ही devoted himself and he would change and Kali would come. He was impressed, of course, but actual transformation तब आया था जबकि तोतापुरी was crossing the river outside of the Dakshineshwar and without properly like sinking into the river, he came out from that side and body was barely wet. That's when he realized, when he looked back, there was everything is the mother, everything is Kali or the mother aspect of the nature. Very interesting stuff if you think about it. I mean, I loved it. Just one more second. No? All right, let's go forward. Sri Ramakrishna later described the significance of Totapuri's lessons. When I think of the Supreme Being as inactive, neither creating nor preserving nor destroying, I call him Brahman or Purusha, the impersonal God. When I think of him as active, creating, preserving, and destroying, I call him Shakti or Maya, Prakriti. The personal God. But the distinction between them does not mean a difference. The personal and the impersonal are the same thing, like milk and its whiteness, the diamond and its luster, the snake and its wriggling motion. It is impossible to conceive of the one without the other. The Divine Mother and the Brahman are one. Interesting, no? After the departure of Totapuri, Sri Ramakrishna remained for 6 months in a state of absolute identity with Brahman. For 6 months at a stretch, I remained in that state from which ordinary men can never return. Generally, the body falls off after 3 weeks like a seri leaf. I was not conscious of day and night. Flies would enter my mouth and nostrils just as they do to a dead body. But I did not feel them. My hair became matted with dust. His body would not have survived but for the kindly attention of a monk who happened to be at Dakshineshwar at the time and who somehow realized that for the good of humanity, Sri Ramakrishna's body must be preserved. He tried various means, even physical violence, to recall the fleeing soul to the prison house of the body. During the resultant fleeing moments of consciousness, he would push a few morsels of food down Sri Ramakrishna's throat. Presently, Sri Ramakrishna received the command of the Divine Mother to remain on the threshold of relative consciousness. Remember, Divine Mother ने उनको कहा था कि you be present at the sixth chakra, sixth center, right? Not half above, half below, kind of thing, right? Soon thereafter, he was afflicted with a serious attack of dysentery. Day and night, the pain tortured him, and his mind gradually came down to the physical plane. That's amazing. Company of holy men and devotees. From now on, Sri Ramakrishna began to seek the company of devotees and holy men. He had gone through the storm and stress of spiritual disciplines and visions. Now he had realized an inner calmness and appeared to others as a normal person. But he could not bear the company of worldly people or listen to their talk. Fortunately, the holy atmosphere of Dakshineshwar and the liberality of Mathur attracted monks and holy men from all parts of the country. Sadhus of all denominations, monists and dualists, Vaishnavas and Vedantists, Saktas and worshippers of Rama flocked there in ever increasing numbers. Ascetics and visionaries came to seek Sri Ramakrishna's advice. Vaishnavas had come during the period of his Vaishnava sadhana, and Tantrics when he practiced the disciplines of Tantra. Vedantists began to arrive after the departure of Totapuri. In the room of Sri Ramakrishna, who was then in a bed with dysentery, the Vedantists engaged in scriptural discussions and forgetting his own physical suffering. He solved their doubts by referring directly to his own experiences. Many of the visitors were genuine and spiritual souls, the unseen pillars of Hinduism, and their spiritual lives were quickened in no small measure by the sage of Dakshineshwar. Sri Ramakrishna in turn learned from them anecdotes concerning the ways and the conduct of holy men, which he subsequently narrated to his devotees and disciples. At his request, Mathur provided him with large stores of foodstuff, clothes, and so forth for distribution among the wandering monks. Sri Ramakrishna had not read books, yet he possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of religions and religious philosophies. This he acquired from his contacts with innumerable holy men and scholars. He had a unique power of assimilation. Through meditation, he made this knowledge a part of his being. Once, when he was asked by a disciple about the source of his seemingly inexhaustible knowledge, he replied, I have not read, but I have heard the learned. I have made a garland of their knowledge, wearing it around my neck, and I have given it as an offering at the feet of the mother. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that when the flower blooms, the bees come to it for honey of their own accord. मतलब जब भी कोई फ्लावर ब्लूम करता है तो उसके पास बीज आती हैं अपनी मर्जी से आती हैं to get some honey. Now, many souls began to visit Dakshineshwar to satisfy their spiritual hunger. He, the devotee and the aspirant, became the master. Gauri, the great scholar who had been one of the first to proclaim Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation of the God, paid the master a visit in 1870, and with master's blessings, renounced the world. Narayan Shastri, another great Pandit, who had mastered the six systems of Hindu philosophy, had been offered a lucrative post by the Maharaja of Jaipur, met the master, and recognized him in one who had realized in life those ideals which he himself had encountered merely in books. Sri Ramakrishna initiated Narayan Shastri at his earnest request into the life of sannyasa. Pandit Padmalochan, the court Pandit of the Maharaja of Burdwan, well known for his scholarship in both the Vedanta and the Nyaya systems of philosophy, accepted the master as incarnation of God. Krishna Kishore, a Vedantist scholar, became devoted to the master, and there arrived Vishwanath Upadhyay, who was to become a favorite devotee. Sri Ramakrishna always addressed him as captain. He was a high officer of the King of Nepal and had received the title of colonel in recognition of his merit. A scholar of the Gita, the Bhagavata, and the Vedanta philosophy, he daily performed the worship of his chosen deity with great devotion. I have read the Vedas and the other scriptures, he said. I have also met a good many monks and devotees in different places, but it is in Sri Ramakrishna's presence that my spiritual yearnings have been fulfilled. To me, he seems to be the embodiment of truths of the scriptures, the knowledge of Brahman in Nirvikalp Samadhi had convinced Sri Ramakrishna that the gods of different religions are but so many readings of the Absolute, and that the ultimate reality could never be expressed by human tongue. He understood that all religions lead to their devotees by differing paths to one and the same goal. Now he became eager to explore some of the alien religions, for with him understanding meant actual experience. Islam. Towards end of 1866, he began to practice the disciplines of Islam. Under the direction of his Musallam guru, he abandoned himself to his new sadhana. He dressed as a Musalman, Musalman, and repeated the name of Allah. His prayers took the form of the Islamic devotions. He forgot the Hindu gods and goddesses, even Kali, and gave up visiting the temples. He took up his residence outside the temple precincts. After 3 days, he saw the vision of a radiant figure, perhaps Muhammad. This figure gently approached him and finally lost himself in Sri Ramakrishna. Thus he realized the Musalman god. From there, he passed into communion with Brahman. The mighty river of Islam also led him back to the ocean of Absolute. Christianity. 8 years later, sometime in November 1874, Sri Ramakrishna was seized with an irresistible desire to learn the truth of Christian religion. He began to listen to readings from the Bible by Shambhu Charan Malik, a gentleman of Calcutta and a devotee of the Master. Sri Ramakrishna became fascinated by the life and teachings of Jesus. One day, when he was seated in the parlor of Jaddu Malik's garden house at Dakshineshwar, when his eyes became fixed on painting of the Madonna and Child, intently watching it, he became gradually overwhelmed with divine emotion. The figures in the picture look, took on life, and the rays of light emanating from them entered his soul. The effect of this experience was stronger than that of the vision of Muhammad. In dismay, he cried out, "Oh, mother, what are you doing to me?" And breaking through the barriers of creed and religion, he entered a new realm of ecstasy. Christ possessed his soul. For 3 days he did not set foot in the Kali temple. On the fourth day in afternoon, as he was walking in the Panchavati, he saw coming towards him a person with beautiful large eyes, serene countenance, and fair skin. As the two faced each other, a voice rang out in the depths of Sri Ramakrishna's soul. Behold the Christ who shed his heart's blood for the redemption of the world, who suffered a sea of anguish for love of men. It is he, the Master Yogi, who is in eternal union with God. It is Jesus, love incarnate. Wow, that's amazing. On the fourth day, in the afternoon, he was walking in the Panchavati. He saw coming towards him a person with beautiful large eyes, serene countenance, and a fair skin. Nice. Probably he was Jesus. That's what is written. The Son of Man embraced the Son of Divine Mother and merged in him. Sri Ramakrishna realized his identity with the Christ as he had already realized his identity with Kali, Rama, Hanuman, Radha, Krishna, Brahman, and Muhammad. The Master went into Samadhi and communed with the Brahman with attributes. Thus, he experienced the truth that Christianity too was a path leading to God consciousness. Till the last moment of his life, he believed that Christ was an incarnation of God. But Christ for him was not only the incarnation, there were others. Buddha, for instance, and Krishna, you know, were the Christ also. I mean, but Christ for him was not the only incarnation. There were other incarnations of God, Buddha and Krishna and things like that. Attitude towards different religions. ये देख के बहुत अच्छा लगता है कि when there is a great teacher who undergoes with open mindedness बाकी religions को भी explore करना and देखना कि उनमें क्या खूबियां हैं and try to bring them you know um, try to realize God through all the paths actually. अब if you take Guru Nanak Dev Ji as an example, उस टाइम पे हिंदू एंड मुस्लिम जो हैं वो दो सेक्ट्स थे, मतलब 1406 में वो पैदा हुए थे, तो 1420 की बात होगी शायद, या 1430 की बात होगी अप्रोक्सीमेटली उस टाइम पे। तो जब उनको एनलाइटमेंट हुआ था, तो उसके बाद when he basically also became a wandering monk. उनकी शादी हो गई थी, उनकी फैमिली थी, बट ही वाज स्टिल अ वॉन्डरिंग मॉन्क। मतलब ही डिड फोर बिग ग्रेट ट्रैवल्स, उनको बोलते हैं उदासियां, across the world practically, जहां जहां तक the foot could take him, and very very long ones also, by the way, really long ones. And so among those उन बहुत तरह तरह के मतलब चैलेंजेस एंड अपॉर्चुनिटीज सामने आई। उसमें से एक बहुत ही अच्छी चीज थी, उनको एक बार किसी एक मुसलमान ने पूछा कि आप जो हैं आप एक बार हमारे साथ प्रे 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 करके देखिए, प्रे विद अस, बी लाइक अस, एंड फिर आपको अल्लाह के बारे में ये मालूम चलेगा। ही वाज लाइक ओके, लेट्स डू इट। विद दैट ओपन माइंडेडनेस ऑफ कोर्स ही accepted the religion and he practiced the teachings also. So for some time, but then he realized कि जो प्रेयर खुद कर रहे हैं, of course he had realized God long back. He didn't need a path as such. But the fact is कि anyway, this is very very good story with the open mindedness. Master Choksoi हमारे जो spiritual teacher हैं, to spread the teachings of meditation and twin hearts in Islamic community, he actually at some certain point of time he took over the name Abdul Wadud Amin. It's a known truth actually, and that's when he was able to spread the teachings in the Islamic community across the world basically, right? So that was also very very like great teachers don't really care as long as the work gets done. Very simple. Attitude towards different religions. Sri Ramakrishna accepted the divinity of Buddha and used to point out the similarity of his teachings to those from the Upanishads. He also showed great respect for the Tirthankaras who founded Jainism and for the 10 gurus of Sikhism. But he did not speak of them as divine incarnations. He was heard to say that the gurus of Sikhism were the reincarnations of the king Janaka of ancient India. He kept in his room at Dakshineshwar a small statue of Tirthankara, Mahavira, and a picture of Christ, before which the incense was burning, morning and evening. Without being formally initiated into their doctrines, Sri Ramakrishna thus realized the ideals of religion other than Hinduism. He did not need to follow any doctrine. See, he did not need to follow any doctrine, of course, right? So essentially, without being formally initiated into their doctrines, Sri Ramakrishna thus realized the ideals of religions other than Hinduism. He did not need to follow any doctrine. All barriers were removed by his overwhelming love of God. So he became a master who could speak with authority regarding the ideas and ideals of the various religions of the world. In quotes, I have practiced, he said, all religions, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity, and I have also followed the paths of the different Hindu sects. I have found that it is the same God towards whom all of you are directing their steps, though along different paths. You must try all beliefs and traverse all the different ways once. Whenever I look, I see men quarreling in the name of religion. Hindus, Mohammedans, Brahmos, Vaishnavas, and the rest. But they never reflect that he who is called Krishna is also called Shiva and bears the same of the primal energy, Jesus and Allah as well. The same Rama with 1,000 names. A lake has several ghats. Wow, this is a beautiful one. No, a lake has several ghats. At, at one, the Hindus take water in a pitcher and call it jal. At another, the Muslims take water in leather bags and call it pani. At third, the Christians call it water. Can we imagine that it is not jal but only pani or water? How ridiculous! The substance is one under different names, and everyone is seeking the same substance. Only climate, temperament, and name creates differences. Let each man follow his own path. See, let each man follow his own path. If he sincerely and ardently wishes to know God, peace be unto him, he will surely realize him. In 1867, Sri Ramakrishna returned to Kamarpukur to recuperate from the effect of his austerities. The peaceful countryside, the simple and artless companions of his boyhood, and the pure air did him much good. The villagers were happy to get back their playful, frank, witty, and kind-hearted and truthful Gadadhar. Though they did not fail to notice the great change that had come over him during the years in Calcutta. His wife Sharda Devi was now 14 years old, soon arrived at Kamarpukur. Her spiritual development was much beyond her age, and she was able to understand immediately her husband's state of mind. She became eager to learn from him about God and to live with him as his attendant. The master accepted her cheerfully, both as his disciple and as his spiritual companion. Referring to the experiences of these few days, she once said, I used to feel always as if a picture full of bliss were placed in my heart. The joy was indescribable. Wow. Nice. Pilgrimage. Imagine if, you're guiding, say, meditation on Twin Hearts someday, say, guiding 500 people, you know, and you have the ability to give people experience of bliss Bliss is something which can't be described, by the way. Even the word joy can't be described. Joy is something which is love from the higher soul, right? Bliss is love from the divine spark. It's indescribable. There is no way to describe the word bliss. But imagine, like you grow spiritually to such a degree that you can impart bliss or a heavy duty joy to people. And one experience like this can really inspire people to look at the path in a way that people will start to, shall we say, look at spiritual path as something which one needs to, follow because of what lies ahead on the path. It happened to me once. 2014, 2015 December, I was meditating in the place called Arhatik Yoga Ashram in Pune, and I think only once a substantial experience has happened, and not afterwards. I actually felt for 7 to 10 seconds actually when a friend of mine was guiding the activation of the heart, a huge explosion of energy of I don't know what, but it was extremely potent, extremely empowering, and I really hope that stayed for much longer, but only a few seconds it remained, and it was extremely overpowering. It was very very powerful, and trust me when I tell you that experience was one such which after which I realized if this is what lies on the path ahead, nothing can stop me to go forward on this path. It was very personal after that. I want this and I will do anything to get back this. It was extremely powerful. Beyond verbal descriptions, I have no idea, but it was really powerful. Um, I don't know what to call it, whether it was joy, whether it was bliss, I have no idea. But whatever it was, um, um, it made you I don't even know there are no words in our usual language to describe that. But yeah, I mean, my point is ki for me, that one 10-second experience was perfect. 2015, yes, this year and it will be 10 years. Wow, the chase is still on, by the way. I mean, I've come close to it again in my practices, but not the same. Same hasn't been achieved yet. Same will someday be achieved, maybe again, but not yet. But yeah. See, that's the way I see it. A pitcher full of bliss was placed in my heart. The joy was indescribable. The word indescribable is the exact same word which I felt. Pilgrimage. On January 27th, 1868, Mathur Babu, with a party of some 125 persons, set on a pilgrimage to the sacred places of North India. At, at Vaidyanath in Bihar, when the master saw the inhabitants of a village reduced at poverty and starvation to mere skeletons, he requested his rich patron to feed the people and give each a piece of cloth. Mathur demurred at the added expense. The master declared bitterly that he would not go to Banaras, but he would live with the poor and share their miseries. He actually left Mathur and sat down with the villagers, whereupon Mathur had to yield. On another occasion, 2 years later, Sri Ramakrishna showed a similar sentiment for the poor and the needy. He accompanied Mathur on a tour to one of the latter's estate. At the time of the collection of rents, for 2 years the harvests had failed and the tenants were in a state of extreme poverty. The master asked Mathur to remit their rents, distribute help to them, and in addition, give the hungry people a sumptuous feast. When Mathur grumbled, the master said, "You are only the steward of the Divine Mother. They are the mother's tenants. You must spend the mother's money. When they are suffering, how can you refuse to help them? You must help them." Again, Mathur had to give in. Sri Ramakrishna's sympathy for the poor sprang from his perception of God in all created beings. His sentiment was not that of the humanist or philanthropist. To him, the service of man was the same as worship of God. The party ended. The party entered holy Banaras by boat along the Ganges. When Sri Ramakrishna's eyes fell on the city of Shiva, where had accumulated for ages the devotion and piety of countless worshippers, he saw it to be made of gold. City of Shiva, Banaras में ना, city of made of gold, as the scriptures declare. He was visibly moved. During his stay in the city, he treated every particle of its earth with utmost respect. At the Mani Karnika Ghat, the great cremation ground of the city, he actually saw Shiva with ash covered body and tawny matted hair, serenely approaching each funeral pyre and breathing into the ears of the corpses the mantra of liberation. And then the Divine Mother, removing from the dead bodies, from the dead their bonds. Thus, he realized the significance of scriptural statement that anyone dying in Banaras attains salvation through the grace of Shiva. He paid a visit to Trilanga Swami, the celebrated monk, whom he later declared to be a real Paramahamsa, a veritable image of Shiva. You guys have seen the photograph of Trilanga Swami, no? Let's see. Let's Google something. Trilanga Swami. Trilanga Swami was this guy. This, I think, is the only image of him, also, by the way. He was a naked fat monk, and there was Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also met Trilanga Swami. So I don't think there is any other image of him as such. This is probably the only image that that there is. And Trilanga Swami was also mentioned by Autobiography of a Yogi, by Paramahamsa Yogananda. And if I'm not wrong, but I haven't really checked, by some other people also. He was a great saint, by the way. Trilanga Swami. Now the thing is, Trilanga Swami was one a story in Autobiography Yogi, where he was walking along I think the road, and he was naked, and the police would capture him so many times, and they would put him in jail. 10 minutes afterwards, he would be seen walking on the roof of the jail, and then he would vanish from there. So, I mean, a great saint. Actually, you can't capture him. Afterwards, they stopped trying to even catch him, because you can't catch a god man in that sense. There's no way you can let him do what he wants to do. Another example is that Trilanga Swami was example of those that who mastered all the sects, all the, I think, the sects of yoga, if I'm not wrong, like all the eight limbs of yoga and all the every aspect of the scripture. He'd mastered in his body. To demonstrate this, he would drink a full blown poison in the middle of the market, and nothing would happen to him. People would just see, cheer, like, wow, but that's it. I mean, nothing would happen to his body. He says that he would say to those who have, to demonstrate, by the way, huh, to those who have achieved God in this body, everything has God in it, and all is God. Then that is really remarkable if you think. I mean, I'm very inspired internally to even talk of the great saint. Sri Ramakrishna visited Allahabad at the confluence of the Ganges. अभी हम यहाँ पे जहाँ पे वो चल रहा है अभी, क्या बोलते हैं, कुंभ मेला चल रहा है. The confluence of the Ganges, the Jamuna, and then proceeded to Vrindavan and Mathura, hallowed by the legends, songs, and dramas about Krishna and the gopis. Here he had numerous visions, and his heart overflowed with divine emotion. He wept and said, in quotes, "O Krishna, everything here is as it was in the olden days. You alone are absent." He visited the great woman saint Gangamai, regarded by Vaishnava devotees as the reincarnation of an intimate attendant of Radha. She was 60 years old and had frequent trances. She spoke of Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation of Radha. With great difficulty, she was persuaded to leave her. Oh, Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation of Radha. And by the way, the great saint was a reincarnation of an intimate attendant of Radha. Wow, that's interesting. With great difficulty, he was persuaded to leave her. On the return journey, Mathur wanted to visit Gaya, but Sri Ramakrishna declined to go. He recalled his father's vision at Gaya before his own birth and felt that in the temple of Vishnu he would become permanently absorbed in God. Mathur, honoring the master's wish, returned by with his party to Calcutta. Imagine carrying 125 people. It's a lot of people, man. 125 people is a lot of people. From Vrindavan, the master had brought a handful of dust. Part of this he scattered in the Panchavati, the rest he buried in the little hut where he practiced meditation. Now, this place, he said, is as sacred as Vrindavan. In 1870, Master went on a pilgrimage to Nadia, the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya. Nadia or Nadiad? Nadiad is a place in Gujarat, no? That is the same place? Anyways, as the boat by which he traveled approached the sandbank close to Nadia, Sri Ramakrishna had a vision of the in quotes, two brothers, Sri Chaitanya and his companion Nityananda, bright as molten gold. Nadia is outskirts of Calcutta. Okay, thank you so much. Sri Chaitanya and his companion Nityananda, bright as a molten gold and with halos rushing to greet him with uplifted hands. There they come, he cried. They entered his body and he went into a deep trance. Wow, wow. Relation with his wife. In 1872, Sharda Devi paid her first visit to her husband at Dakshineshwar. 4 years earlier, she had seen him at Kamarpukur and had tasted the bliss of his divine company. Since then, she had become even more gentle, tender, introspective, serious, and unselfish. She had heard many rumors about her husband's insanity. People had shown her pity in her misfortune. The more she thought, the more she felt that her duty was to be with him, giving him in whatever measure she could a wife's devoted service. She was now 18 years old. Accompanied by her father, she arrived at Dakshineshwar, having come on foot the distance of 80 miles. Wow, that's a big distance, yeah. She had an attack of fever on the way. When she arrived at the temple garden, the master said sorrowfully, "Ah, you have come too late. My Mathur is no longer here to look after you." Mathur had passed away the previous year. Wow. The master took up the duty of instructing his young wife, and this included everything from housekeeping to the knowledge of Brahman. He taught her how to trim a lamp, how to behave toward people according to their differing temperaments, and how to conduct herself before visitors. He instructed her in the mysteries of spiritual life, prayer, meditation, japa, deep contemplation, and samadhi. The first lesson that Sharada Devi received was, in quotes, God is everybody's beloved, just as the moon is dear to every child. Everyone has the same right to pray to him out of his grace. He reveals himself to all who call upon him. You too will see him if you but pray to him. Totapuri. It's a very, very good lesson, by the way. I think for all of us also. Let's again read this. God is everybody's beloved, just as the moon is dear to every child. Everyone has the same right to pray to him. Out of his grace, he reveals himself to all who call upon him. You too will see him if you but pray to him. Nice. Totapuri, coming to know of the master's marriage, had once remarked, "What does it matter? He alone is firmly established in the knowledge of Brahman who can adhere to his spirit of discrimination and renunciation even while living with his wife. He alone has attained the supreme illumination who can look on a man and a woman alike as Brahman. A man with the idea of sex may be a good aspirant, but he is still far from the goal." Sri Ramakrishna and his wife lived together at Dakshineshwar, but their minds always soared above the worldly plane. A few months after Sharda Devi's arrival, Sri Ramakrishna arranged on an auspicious day a special worship of Kali, the Divine Mother. Instead of an image of the deity, he placed in the seat the living image, Sharda Devi herself. अपनी wife को उन्होंने वहां पे बिठाया. The worshipper and the worshipped went into deep samadhi, and in the transcendental plane, their souls were united. After several hours, Sri Ramakrishna came down again to the relative plane, sang a hymn to the great goddess, and surrendered at the feet of the living image himself. He is rosary and the fruit of his lifelong sadhana. This is known in the Tantra as Shodasi Puja, the adoration of a woman. Ramakrishna realized the significance of the greatest statement of the Upanishad. O Lord, thou art the woman, thou art the man, thou art the boy, thou art the girl, thou art the old tottering on their crutches. Thou pervadest the universe in multiple forms. By his marriage, Sri Ramakrishna admitted the great value of marriage in man's spiritual evolution, and by adhering to his monastic vows, he demonstrated the imperative necessity of self control, purity, and continence in the realization of God. By his unique spiritual relationship with his wife, by his unique spiritual relationship, continence is self control, no sex. Right? Let's again read this. By his marriage, Sri Ramakrishna admitted that the great value of marriage in man's spiritual evolution, great value of marriage in man's spiritual evolution, and by adhering to his monastic vows, it demonstrated by the imperative necessity of self-control, purity in thoughts, and continence, sexual retention in the realization of God. By his unique spiritual relationship with his wife, he proved that husband and wife can live together as spiritual companions. Thus, his life is a synthesis of the ways of the life of the householder and the monk. By the way, I'll also tell you something additional in this. Even if you're a master, even if you don't have to. I mean, master matlab you have achieved great level of spiritual development. You don't have to refrain from sex. You can have sex. That's perfectly okay. It's natural, God-given thing to have sex. To refrain from sex, there's no bravery in that. By the way, I'm speaking very carefully. Also, there's no bravery in refraining from sex. Nothing like that, actually. It's stupidity, in fact. Yeah, there are some times, so I'll open the whole subject a little bit more to you. There are some times when you're doing specific kinds of practices. I'm trying to thoughtfully speak also, not just something. Some kind of practices for which you need sex energy. When you have sex energy will go away, right? But you need specific sex energy when you're doing specific kinds of practices. In those times, yes, it's better to save for some time and use this sex energy. The purpose is not to just not have it, not have it, not have it, and then think that you're somebody special. No, that is not true at all. You don't become special if you practice abstinence. It's sort of not an alignment, you know, with the plan of God. Have in moderation. What moderate means to you will change at every stage of spiritual development because the whole sex energy itself will start to change. Anyways, not getting there. Some more stages where you have to save sex energy are those stages where you have been sexually highly promiscuous in the past, too much sex in the past, too much fantasies in the past, and right now you lack self control. That is also where you practice abstinence. You stay away from some time for some time, and then when the control is regained, then we will do whatever we have to do. Then we will re-engage if possible. That's why if you see the Indian system has 25 years as brahmacharya. All the past sexual lusts are worked out in that time. So when you engage as grihastha or a householder, you engage with a relatively much more pure mind and cultivated sex energy, right? Makes sense? With a very moderate approach. Very scientific, highly scientific stuff. Sex energy has to be properly utilized by better knowledge of it, not just suppressed, not just saying ki I will not have sex, or that, or I'm superior because I'm not having sex. That is not true at all. It's no way it's true. Not true at all. I mean, if you have that point of view, that's what I'm sharing ki it's untrue. Okay. Nice. The ego of the master. In the Nirvikalp Samadhi, Sri Ramakrishna had realized that Brahman alone is real and the world illusory. By keeping his mind 6 months on the plane of the non dual Brahman, he had attained the state of Vignani, the knower of the truth, in a special and very rich sense, who sees Brahman not only in himself and in the transcendental absolute, but in everything of the world. In the state of Vignana, sometimes bereft of body consciousness, he would regard himself as one with Brahman. Sometimes conscious of the dual world, he would regard himself as a god's devotee, servant, or child. In order to enable the master to work for the welfare of humanity, the Divine Mother had kept him in a trace of ego, which he described according to his mood as the, in quotes, ego of the knowledge, the ego of devotion, the ego of a child, or the ego of a servant. In any case, his ego, in any case, this ego of the master, consumed by the fire of knowledge of Brahman, was an appearance only, like a burnt string. He often referred to his ego as the ripe ego, in contrast with the ego of the bound soul, which he described as the unripe or green ego. The ego of the boundless soul identifies itself with the body, relatives, possessions, and the world, but the ripe ego, illumined by the divine knowledge, knows the body, relatives, possessions, and the world to be unreal and establishes relationship of love with God alone. Through his ripe ego, Sri Ramakrishna dealt with the world and his wife. One day, while stroking his feet, Sharda Devi asked the master, in quotes, "What do you think of me?" Quick came the answer that the mother who is worshipped in the temple is the mother who has given birth to my body and is now living in the Nahabat, and it is she again who is stroking my feet at this moment. Indeed, I always look on you as the personification of the blissful Mother Kali. Wow, wow. Sharda Devi, in the company of her husband, had rare spiritual experiences. She said, in quotes, "I have no words to describe my wonderful exaltation of spirit as I watched him in his different moods. Under the influence of divine emotion, he would sometimes talk on abstruse subjects, sometimes laugh, sometimes weep, and sometimes become perfectly motionless in samadhi. This would continue throughout the night. There was such an extraordinary divine presence in him that now and then I would shake with fear and wonder how the night would pass. Months went by in this way. Then one day he discovered that I had to keep awake the whole night, otherwise, during my sleep, he should go into samadhi, for it might happen at any moment. And so he asked me to sleep in the Nahabat. What is Nahabat? This word has come 2 or 3 times. What is Nahabat? Define. Nahabat is, come on, just give me a second. Nahabat. I actually want to see what does it mean. Anybody knows who knows what Nahabat is? I really don't know. I'm sorry. Anybody who has any idea of what Nahabat is, please share. I would love to know. Okay. Yes, please. You have to press unmute, madam.
It's like blameless. You cannot blame upon someone.
Oh, sleep without blame. Is that what it means?
So can you please repeat the statement once more?
So it says and so he asked me to sleep in the Nahabat.
So Nahabat has one more meaning in Urdu, that is palatial, palace types, and another is this. So maybe like before, with what context it has come, it can be continued in the same way.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Atma Namaste.
Okay. So let's actually carry forward. Summary of the master spiritual experiences. We have now come to the end of Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana, the period of his spiritual discipline. As a result of super sensuous experiences, he reached certain conclusions regarding himself and spirituality in general. His conclusions about himself may be summarized as follows. First, he was an incarnation of God, a specially commissioned person whose spiritual experience were for the benefit of humanity. Whereas it takes an ordinary man a whole life struggle to realize one or two phases of God, he had in a few years realized God in all his phases. Second, he knew that he had always been a free soul, that the various disciplines through which he had passed were really not necessary for his own liberation, but were solely for the benefit of others. Thus, the terms of liberation and bondage were not applicable to him. As long as there are beings who consider themselves bound, God must come down to earth as an incarnation to free them from bondage, just as a magistrate must visit any part of his district in which there is trouble. Wow, this is amazing. See, like God will send his foremost disciple kind of thing in a place where there's more trouble, right? Like to spread more teaching or something that gets situation under control. This was the kind of mission that Sri Ramakrishna had when he took birth. Third, there came to foresee the time of his death. He came to foresee the time of his death. His words with respect to this matter were literally fulfilled. Now, we will read this, page number 51, next time. We'll close this book right now. And okay, Nahabat means a room where instruments are kept in a palace. Okay, that's good. Ah, Nahaba. Okay. Oh, you guys really know stuff. That's amazing. Nah, but okay. Interesting. Let's do a closing prayer. To the Supreme God, to the Great Divine Father and the Great Divine Mother, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for your great, great blessings. Thank you so much. To our great spiritual teacher, to all the great spiritual teachers, to all the great gods and goddesses, to all the great, great ones, to our soul, to our divine self, to the great teacher Sri Ramakrishna, and to all his great disciples, we very, very humbly thank you for your great blessings. We are infinitely grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone, take care. See you next time. Bye bye. See you. We finished about half the book, by the way, now. So remaining half is pending, which will take whatever number of sessions. Yeah. Have fun. See you next time. Bye. Good book, no?